Hello. So I want to talk about something just really quick. And what I want to talk about is what's supposed to be going on right now that a lot of people keep warning you about with the articles and with everything that keeps coming on the news. To be honest with you, I don't watch it, so I don't know. I mean, I guess it's good to keep up with things. But at this point, because I realize it's a time loop and 99 there's a 99.9% chance that I live this exact event already that's going on that is already past. But because our consciousness have been low and not being aware of a time loop, we keep reliving the same situation over and over and over again. Uh, that is the reason why I try not to give too much attention to those messages, because I've probably done that once or twice already the exact same way. And sometimes, and right at this point, I'm trying to do things a little differently. Because in that particular time loop, my future self, right, well, the future version of me, because my conscious mind didn't catch up, even though there are versions of me that's in those timelines that's already ahead, even though my conscious awareness is behind, I don't know what happened to that version of me, right? So now I'm trying to make decisions on where I want to be, right? But this is what I also want to say too. Um, th- um, this is not your fight. This is really, and I've said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. What's happening is that the ego world is crumbling. Capitalism is crumbling. The world of the elites is crumbling. The Gregorian calendar is crumbling. Okay, this whole cycle is crumbling and going into a new cycle. And what's happening is because these particular people that has been in power, or entities that has been in power, because they do not want to bow out gracefully, they have caused all of this ruckus and pushed all of this fear and trying to remove the food and trying to remove that and trying to crash everything, because really what's happening is their system is coming to an end. And they know in order to stay in power, in order to keep buying time, in order for the time, in order to close the time loop again, they need to make people unstable. They need to push people in fear, make them unstable, make them feel like they have to get all this stuff done and stuff. And at this point, it's like, okay, I get being prepared and stocking up or whatever. I'm going to say this every time I get a chance to say it. While you're preparing and stocking up, it's best to prepare spiritually more than physically at this point, because at this point, from what I am seeing and what I'm feeling, you're going to have to rely more on spirit than what you think is a physical world, because the physical world is an illusion. Because it looks like the physical world is failing a lot of people, right? It's like you keep trying to prepare. Like, here's the thing about preparing. And I'm not going to try to scare anybody. I'm not trying to do that. But here's the thing about preparing. If you don't own your own house or property, then there is a good chance that something could happen to make you move out of where you are, right? Just an example, there has already been hundreds of people throughout the United States of America that has lived in apartments, that the apartment complex has become under new ownership, right? And there's been hundreds of people that have to suddenly just move out those apartments, right? And see, when something like that happens to you, and I have been in a position where I've had to leave like that too. When things like that happen, you really can't just keep all the stuff that they might have stocked up on. They cannot carry it with them. Okay, so it's going to some people, not all, but some people might be on the go. They might be a little unstable when it comes to trying to find a place to live, because The United States is making it very difficult for people to get housing. And so right now, the message of stocking up is very hard for a lot of people to keep receiving, because a lot of folks, I've heard this, is just having trouble finding a place to live. And if you're having trouble just finding a place to live, say for instance seeds and getting seeds for a garden. I do keep hearing the message that you need to get seeds for a garden. But if you are a person, or for the people, period, right, that has gotten evicted from their apartments after they done lived there for about 20 years already, right? Or some people have had their own houses. Let me just get off the apartments, because a lot of people are not homeowners like they think they are. If a person still owes a mortgage, if they still paying mortgages, they're not homeowners. If they do not own their property, they're not homeowners. I've heard a few stories where some of these people have lost their houses. One lady, I think she had over $200,000 something in equity. She was taking care of her sick husband, and she had children. And I think she owed maybe 100 and something, 900 something like that in property tax. And she was working on a payment plan, because usually you could just work on a payment plan to pay that back, right? It's usually just pretty easy to speak to people and say, okay, well, let's work on a payment plan, because she could have been unaware, So she could have just, back in the day, like maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it was very simple to just make a payment plan, right? But because of what's happening right now or during these particular times, they didn't want to give her a chance. And they just literally went and took her home. And she was searching for a home with a sick husband and having to take care of children. Now, a person like that, I'm pretty sure she lived in that house a long time, and she already had a bunch of stuff stored up in that house. But do you think she was able to carry everything with her? This is what I'm saying. The physical reality seems to be letting people down. It seems to be letting people down. Some people, right? That's what I'm saying. Some people might be okay, and some people not going to be all right. That's why I say it looks like the only solution to this is just to be mostly spirit. Honestly, it seems to be mostly spirit. I'm gonna say this. I've been saying this too, but I just listened to somebody else say this morning. The best thing that happened, because the ego world is crashing, and what we have been living in our whole lives is what's called an ego-driven world. That world is crashing, and that's why these entities keep pushing all this fear. And it looks like the best way to really be triumphant, let me say, is to transcend the ego into the soul. Transcend your ego into the soul and become more of your soul and not the ego, because the ego is constantly holding on to fear. That is something that takes work. It doesn't really happen overnight. It just takes work, especially if most of us live most of our lives in an ego type state where we are heavily reliant on a physical type of reality, right? And we have been reduced to our five senses for so long that we have not really nourished our other senses. We have not really nourished our other gifts. Okay. But yeah. It just looks like that's going to be the solution. Because when you keep trying to, because see, the thing is, you can't, I get gardening, yes, it'll help, but if you don't have a place to stay, I don't know where you're going to plant this food. I think most people that keep saying that, they don't really understand that there are going to be people in situations where it's just going to be a struggle to find housing. It's going to be a struggle to find a place to live. And the last thing they can really think about is where they're going to plant some seeds, because they don't even have any property around them. I think sometimes the people who give that message, I don't think they really realize it's a lot of folks that's homeless. It's a lot of folks that's homeless that they ain't got nowhere to plant no seeds. Okay, they ain't got no things to buy from Walmart or wherever in some soil and plant seeds where in front of the shelter or something, and the shelters get to the point where they can't take everybody. Are they going to plant it on the sidewalk? What are they going to plant? It's a lot of homelessness about to happen more than ever. And to be honest with you, the people who have been secure their whole lives are going to be some of them people that might be homeless. That lady that's been in that house for all them years, she found herself homeless. And it's another lady that did not even owe even $100 in property tax. I think she owed like maybe less than $20 in property tax, like less than $20 in property tax. And they took her house. They took her house around this time. 5 years ago, that wouldn't happen. But around this time, they took her house. And of course, like I said, we already know people are getting put out of apartments left and right. And so those are the things that I think about sometimes when folks want to talk about stocking up and gardening. That's all good ideas. But if you ain't got a place to stay, I don't know where you're going to plant a seed. You going to plant it on the sidewalk? You going to plant it on Skid Row? I don't understand where you're going to plant this seed. I think when people give those messages, it's good messages, but I don't think they realize there's other folks that's not as fortunate as they are. So it's good to warn people, but it's also good to consider all situations that people might be in, that they cannot be like you. They can't do what you do because they're not necessarily fortunate to be in your situation. And when some people give all this advice, I don't think they are aware that there's homelessness happening. If you're homeless, it's going to be hard to plant a garden. What you're going to find is it's hard to plant a garden when you don't have a place to stay. When you're living in your car, it's hard to have gardens. Okay? And I don't think they consider that when they keep telling people to go buy stuff and stock up. Where you going to put all this in your car? If you have a car. So I consider things like that, but that's the biggest thing I want to say though is that these entities are the ones that's being removed. The ones that have been in power for these couple of millennia, right? These few millennia, these entities that have been in power, they are the ones that's being removed, right? And so that's why I say this fight is not our fight. This fight is their fight. And they're pushing their issues on everybody else to put them into fear so they can buy more time. Because when people keep being pushed into fear and being pushed and keep getting stuck into their ego, where they're not really having a chance to rise in their consciousness, and it buys more time because time is within the ego. Time is in the ego. Time is in the so-called physical reality, and time is in the ego. And if you let people relax and give them a chance to rise up in consciousness, they're going to transcend the physical reality. They're going to transcend the physical. And what's going to happen? Time will not exist anymore. And that's what these people, these entities that's been in rulership, that's what they're afraid of, because their time is coming to an end. So what they got to do is push people back in their egos and back into fear and make them unstable to keep time going. This is what they're talking about, the end of days, the end of time. It's the end of their time. It's not just the end of time. It's the end of their time. Right? Because the reason why they kept trying to scare people with the end of time is because people were on the path to ascension. People were on the path to oneness. And when people are on the path to oneness and ascending into higher frequencies, then they transcend the ego and they transcend time. And those entities, they aren't vibrating high enough. They aren't able to get into those higher type of frequencies and vibrations like other people can once they transcend the ego. So what do? They keep doing things like this to keep buying more time, because when people stay in fear, they stay in their ego, and then time keeps going. Time is the reason why you have things that deteriorate. Time is the reason why people get old and they die. Time is the reason why buildings look old. Time is the reason why things deteriorate. Without time, nothing will deteriorate, and you will never get old. But anyway, I gotta go. But yeah, and to end this, I was listening to somebody, but I already know the physical reality is an illusion. But I just want to say this. He was talking about how somebody was speaking and said that if you're in an area where there is deterioration, that means that reality is not real. And most of us already know the physical reality is an illusion. But it's like nothing should deteriorate. It should stay the way it is. It should always look new. Like think about gold or something, to think about other things that just do not deteriorate just because what's called time passes by. Like some things are timeless. Anything that just deteriorates, that means it's an illusion. It should not just be deteriorating, right? It shouldn't deteriorate. That means that it's not real. It's a false reality. Okay. But anyway, with that being said, that's why I said it's best to, and I have to work on this myself, so I can't talk about nobody else. But I'm just saying what I feel like the real solution here is, because just telling people to keep stocking up and planting seeds, that ain't helping with folks that's stuck on Skid Row like that. They ain't planting no seeds nowhere. But it's more than Skid Row. I'm saying Skid Row because I lived in LA for a while. It's more things, and it's more people that's homeless that's living around places than just Skid Row. But what I'm saying is the people who have been secure in their apartments and in their houses, that's never been homeless a day in their life, they are experiencing homelessness. There has been a lot of people who have experienced homelessness ever since the first lockdown in 2020. There has been a lot of people who have experienced homelessness, and those people cannot receive the message of stocking up and planting seeds if they can't ever find a place to stay, right? And like I said, I think about things like that. It's hard to receive a message of becoming more spiritual too if you unstable and you got to constantly figure out where you about to live and where you about to lay your head. It's hard to be spiritual too. So the first thing those people need to work on is just becoming stable. Just become stable. Get somewhere where you can just be stable for like a good 6 months to a year. Some people just need to focus on that. But truth be told, when you have them kind of problems, it's hard to even be spiritual. Okay? But with that being said, I'll talk later.